If a parent behaves in such a way, then the child must be similar. Having a sibling like this is the worst. There are things you should and shouldn't say. My patience has run out, I don't care anymore. I've decided to stop all payments, including the cost of my husband's second surgery. It's likely that Hannah will lose everything. Could you leave? Yes, I will. But then I'll need to cover my own living expenses. My name is Iris, I'm 47 years old, and I recently married a man named Ken. He has a daughter who is in college, and I have a son, Lynn, who's about to graduate from college. Meeting my husband was a coincidence. Honestly, I didn't think I'd get married at this age. Currently, I import unique items from abroad and sell them online. The income was stable with just that, but I really wanted people to handle the products directly, so I set my sights on the general store where Ken was the manager. Excuse me, I was actually looking for this. Ken was kind and helpful, and afterward, I started visiting the store regularly. We would chat about various things, and he got to know about my business. One day, he suggested that I could place my products in his store. It seems he was looking for a change too, and we struck a deal right there. From there, the product sold well, and our relationship deepened, leading to talks of marriage in less than a year. We're happy, but we're both getting on in years, and I have a son while Ken has a daughter. Ken had also lost his previous wife, but in the end, I accepted a proposal from Ken, and we got married. However, it hasn't been all smooth sailing. Keep your work a secret from my daughter, he said, so I agreed for now and met Ken's daughter, Hannah, for the first time. I greeted her politely, but Hannah quickly said, "No need for introductions, just don't be a bother." When Ken urged her to apologize, she did, but then she retreated to her room. "Are you okay?" "Yeah." "Do you remember the job thing we talked about before?" "Yes, I remember." She's still a bit childish. She's upset, hearing about my success at work and that I'm going to marry you. That's when I realized she must really love her father. She might feel like she's losing Ken, but she's not a child anymore, so I hope she understands. It was tough at first, but after getting married and living together, we began to understand each other's feelings. After that, meals together with the four of us went without any problems. This is how our life together as four started. What should I call you? Call me whatever you like. Can I call you Iris then? Calling you Mom feels a bit awkward. Hannah began to take an active role, and our relationship gradually improved. I was happy about this situation because I always wanted a daughter. But there was one person who seemed suspicious. It was my son, Lynn. "Hey, I need to talk to you about Hannah." Lynn suddenly started speaking in a low voice. "You might want to be cautious." "Cautious? What do you mean?" "I can't say directly, but honestly, I don't know what she's thinking." "Really?" "Yeah, just a heads up. Len has been good at reading people since he was little. Len has a special ability to avoid trouble intuitively. He even saved me from a guy with a bad debt habit. I trust Len, but we've only been living together for 2 months, so I'm trying not to overthink it." Then, it was almost time for Len to graduate from college. "By the way, what are you going to do after? Have you decided where you're going to live?" "I've already found a good place near the company." "Really? Did you talk to your dad about it?" "Yeah, I've told him. I'll probably move around next month. Len takes care of everything himself, so I'm not worried about him, but now I'm more worried about Hannah. I can't help but compare her to Lynn." "Are you thinking about Hannah?" "How did you know?" "Just had a feeling." "By the way, isn't Hannah home yet?" "No, she isn't. I really have no clue what she's thinking." "And Hannah came home after midnight." "I'm home." "Where have you been? You didn't answer your phone, and Dad was worried." Hannah didn't care and went straight to her room. Ken stopped her. "Wait, why are you late?" I was just hanging out with friends. At least let us know. If this continues, we're going to set some rules. Why? Because it's common sense. You're still in college after all. Hannah's attitude has been particularly bad lately. However, I still hadn't grasped that this might just be typical young adult troubles. That day ended without us being able to have a proper conversation as Hannah stayed in her room. Eventually, the day came when Len started living on his own. "Mom, aren't you going to be lonely?" "Well, I am a bit lonely, but I'm more excited about celebrating the start of your new life, Dad. It was fun living together, even though it was just for a short while. From now on, please take good care of Mom." "Sure, leave it to me. And remember, you can always come back home." It was a touching scene, but Hannah ruins the atmosphere. "Hannah, do you have anything to say to Lynn?" "Not really," she replied while messing with her smartphone. "Well, I do. Stop causing trouble for Mom and Dad." "Huh? What do you mean?" "Just take care, alright? See ya." Saying that, Lynn left the house. About an hour later, Hannah was getting ready to go out. "Where are you going?" "Hanging out with friends." "Make sure you don't come back too late." "Why do I have to report everything?" "I'm leaving now. I'll make sure to be back by the last train." Ken and I looked at each other. Life went on as usual afterward, and Hannah became a senior in college and started job hunting, but there didn't seem to be any serious effort in her job search. "Ken, I need to talk to you." "Indeed, she's been going out too much lately." "We should really have a talk with her, shouldn't we?" "Yeah, we should." That night, the three of us gathered in the living room to discuss, and a shocking fact came to light. Hannah had failed enough courses to make her retake the year. She must have given up and started hanging out because of that. "Why didn't you tell us something so important?" "Retaking a year might be unavoidable, but hiding it is the problem. Tuition isn't free, you need to realize that your parents are paying for it." Ken's lecture continued. Hannah seemed surprised to be scolded like this and was completely unable to argue back. Whenever she tried to say something, she was so pressed that she ended up with tears in her eyes, and she couldn't speak well. "She's probably reflecting on it." I reluctantly threw her a lifeline. "Just shut up," Hannah snapped back at my attempt to help. Ken got angry again. "Hey, I'm saying this for your own good." "That's not appropriate." Hannah just stayed silent, looking down. "We're going to set some rules from now on." "Wait, no, I don't want that. If you don't show any sign of reflection, we have to do this." Hannah had no choice but to comply with Ken's decision, though she resisted. But she continued to behave recklessly. She would act to be the aunt when Ken was around, but she was a completely different person when it was just the two of us. She wouldn't listen to anything I said and took a terrible attitude. Meanwhile, something changed with Ken as well. Actually, there had been signs earlier, but they became more apparent one day when Ken came back from work. He looked pale and was clearly unwell. He became immobile, and we had to call an ambulance. "Hello, Hannah, Dad has collapsed, so come to the hospital right away. I'll explain everything later." Ken's condition was serious, and he needed to be hospitalized. "Why do I have to go to the hospital?" "Dad might need major surgery." "That's troublesome. You're gonna earn enough in the meantime, right? It's your fault Dad's in the hospital, isn't it?" Hannah raised her voice and lashed out at me. I was shaken. Hannah came to the hospital but just complained and left. I can't sort out what happened. I wanted to talk more about Ken's condition, but there was no chance. I don't understand why I'm being blamed so much. Ken was hospitalized because cancer was found in his liver. The situation isn't good, but there's a chance of recovery depending on the surgery. When I got home, I shared the harsh reality. It's hard to believe, but this is our reality. We need to pull together. "Shut up, it's your fault this happened," so you should be giving me money. No matter how gently I explained, she wouldn't listen. I was at my wit's end. It looks like it's just going to be the two of us for a while, and since Ken can turn, we need to figure out how to cover living and hospital expenses. For now, I decided to consult Len. I get it, but how should I support myself? I'll talk to Dad too. Yeah, that would help. Let's try to keep the burden as low as possible. Living with just Hannah was tough. Having Len around was truly a lifesaver. I don't think I could have done anything alone. However, as always, Hannah didn't help with the chores. We decided to split the household duties since Ken was hospitalized, but Hannah ignored that and kept asking me to do everything. It's like she sees me as a maid. She did nothing but had complaints about everything. I'm not hungry today, so I don't need dinner. You should have told me earlier. I tried not to get irritated, but Hannah seemed to provoke me on purpose. Besides, it looks kind of bad. She has always been picky and spoiled, especially since it's been just the two of us. It got worse. She'd get mad if I didn't buy things from the specific grocery store she wants. I bought everything exactly as you told me. Why do you have to make things difficult for me? I wouldn't want to deal with this mess, but it's for Dad. Hannah seemed to mutter quietly. For what? Nothing really. Usually, she would have continued to complain, but she seemed confused for some reason. That's when Lynn called. Are you okay right now? Yeah, managing somehow. Listen, we might have misunderstood something. What are you talking about? It's not clear yet, but maybe we've been deceived. Deceived by who? I thought he might be referring to Hannah, but that wasn't necessarily the case. I couldn't fully grasp what Len was saying, but I had to focus on the issues at hand. Every day is so busy. That's all I can handle. 2 days after Len's call, I had to go to the hospital early in the morning. I went straight to Ken's hospital room. Any idea what this is about? Maybe the surgery. Probably, but I'm feeling much better now. That's good to hear. Heard anything from Lynn? No, nothing special. Okay. Anything on your mind? Not really, might just be overthinking. Oh, by the way, the surgery is scheduled for 2 weeks from now. Sorry to cause more trouble. Don't worry about it, just focus on yourself. Thanks, that really helps. I was hopeful that the surgery would improve his condition. That night, when I told Hannah about the surgery plans, she just said, okay, got it, and left the room. I expected more of a reaction, but she was unusually quiet, and I was at a loss for words. The harsh comments that had been so common stopped suddenly. I thought this might lead to some peace, but that was only until the surgery was over. On the day of the surgery, Ken and Hannah went to the hospital together for the first time. I'm so glad it went well. Yeah, Hannah must be relieved too. Ken regained consciousness and was able to talk a bit. However, a phone call came in at that moment, and I had to lead Hannah in the room while I stepped outside. When I came back, I could hear Ken sounding angry at Hannah. Thinking he shouldn't get agitated right after surgery, I opened the door. Everything okay? Yeah, it's fine. I was just making sure she's actually going to school. If that's all, then it's fine. Hannah looked very downcast. I wondered why she seemed so upset. Maybe they were talking about something else, but in such a situation, I couldn't confirm it. Ken had just finished surgery after all. Make sure you rest well. Yeah, I will. Hannah, don't worry about it earlier, okay? Hannah quietly nodded. On the way home, I decided to ask about the conversation at the hospital. What were you talking about at the hospital? There's no need to tell you that. You don't need to get angry. I was trying to improve my relationship with Hannah, but it seemed not to be going well. Slowly, it became clear why Hannah seemed to see me as an adversary. This in turn stirred up a sense of revenge in me. In the end, my relationship with Hannah didn't change. No, it actually got worse, with her hostility towards me becoming more overt. This was after Ken's surgery had successfully concluded. 3 months later, Ken was discharged from the hospital, and even the attending doctor was surprised by how quickly he had recovered. I didn't expect to be discharged so soon. I can't believe how well my body has healed, but you'll need to take it easy for a while. That's true, but I'm also worried about the store. I've been so overwhelmed, I haven't thought about that side of things. Need any help? No, I'll handle it. Don't worry, just make sure not to overdo it. I thought Hannah would settle down with Ken back, and things would get a bit more peaceful, but that wasn't the case at all. Less than a month later, he fell ill again and had to be rehospitalized. It might have been because he pushed himself too hard after recovering, but the primary reasons seemed to be that his liver, which had been operated on, was not doing well. Then, on the night he was readmitted, Hannah confronted me. "Hey, what exactly do you do at home all day? What are you talking about?" "I take care of everything around the house." "Well, I don't see it." No matter what I said, she wouldn't listen, and I couldn't understand what she wanted. "Please calm down. What are you lecturing me? That's not it." Hannah's face turned increasingly red, and she raised her voice more than ever before. She had been hysterical and blaming me before, but this was beyond comparison. "It's your fault Dad's back in the hospital now, isn't it? Don't be ridiculous. How can it be my fault? I heard that stress was the cause." "That's not true, it is true. It's your fault he's hospitalized because his liver got worse." Being blamed in a high-pitched voice without being listened to gives me a headache. Ken is hospitalized because of a pre-existing condition, yet Hannah seems to misunderstand where the blame should lie, and nothing I say seems to get through. I wanted to say this for a while, but you married Dad for his money, didn't you? That's not true at all. Just because you're somewhat attractive, you seduced Dad for his money. Aren't you ashamed? Hannah's accusations escalated, and it felt like she was about to become physically aggressive. And she's missing the most important point. I'm the one paying for her tuition, her phone bills, even our rent. Then Hannah said something unforgivable. If a parent is like that, then the son must be too. Having such a person as a sibling is the worst. We both remarried with children. I can't stay silent when she insults my son like that. There are things you should and shouldn't say. My patience has run out. I tried to settle things for Ken's sake, but it seems impossible. You said something that can't be forgiven. Huh? What's that? Creepy. You can't do anything right. I see. This requires a fundamental solution. Not I see. You're just a stupid woman who fell for a rich dad. I don't care anymore. I've decided to stop all payments, including the cost for Ken's second surgery. Probably Hannah will lose everything. Can you leave? Yes, I will. But then I'll need to cover my own living expenses. Huh? That's impossible. You wanted this. I'm leaving. I took just my smartphone and wallet and left the house. First, I called Len. Mom, good timing. It might be faster to talk in person. Actually, I've left the house. I couldn't stand Hannah anymore. That might have been a wise decision. Let's meet at the cafe in front of the station. Okay, I'll head there right away. Len and I met at the cafe we often visited before we remarried. I arrived first and ordered my usual coffee, trying to forget the past. Sorry I'm late. It's okay. I had a chance to relax for the first time in a while. Len said, "Look at this," and showed me his smartphone. It displayed Ken's store, which was closed with a for sale sign on the door. When did this happen? About the time Dad went back into the hospital. Why would that happen? I'm not sure, but there might be something more important. Len then played another recording for me. Despite some static, I could hear fragments of a voice. Make sure you listen. It's meaningless unless you make her more disliked. Is that Ken's voice? Yeah, I accidentally heard it when I went to the hospital and recorded it. He was probably talking about Hannah. You left home, right? He might take some action. We should probably just watch for now. I was deep in thought. If Hannah's outbursts were directed by Ken, it was chilling. Was this the deception Len mentioned before? But I was dying to know how he found out. Can I ask something? You said we might be being deceived. How did you know? Well, I overheard a conversation between Dad and Hannah when I visited him at the hospital. It seemed suspicious, especially after hearing how much trouble you were having with Hannah. I thought he might have been giving her some kind of instructions. Then I decided to stay at a nearby hotel and keep an eye on their next moves. Less than a week later, there was activity. A call came from my husband. What's going on? I heard you left home because of Hannah. I couldn't stand her abuse anymore, so I stopped paying the rent and tuition fees. Isn't that going too far? I think it's reasonable. Oh, and I decided to leave Ken's matters to Hannah too. I deliberately didn't mention the store or what I heard from Len. Why don't we talk more calmly later? Okay, but make sure to call Hannah too. I understand. I'll contact her. So we set up another meeting. 3 days after the call, I went to the hospital with Len. This will clarify everything. Indeed. When we entered Ken's hospital room, Hannah was already there. Len is here too. Yes, he is. I've talked firmly to Hannah. Please forgive her. It seems like she's already reflecting. Hannah didn't react at all. I asked her if she was truly remorseful, but she just kept looking down. I have a question. You're selling the store, aren't you? You knew? What would you do that? I put it up for sale because the sales dropped, but the hospitalization. It was quite profitable. That's strange. The sales weren't bad. Ken was silent for a moment, then Len played the recording he had made. Make sure you work on making her more disliked. There's no use hiding it anymore. It's better to talk about everything. When did you get that recording? You manipulated Hannah into being the villain to gain my trust, didn't you? By siding with me, I'd be more devoted to you. Did Hannah know about your dad's store or anything? I didn't know anything. I just did what Dad told me to, but that's too much, isn't it? Indeed. Hannah had tried to follow Ken's instructions and ended up going overboard. Even if instructed, she became incredibly hysterical and angry. I was made out to be the villain and was lectured repeatedly, even if it was Ken's strategy. I have no intention of forgiving him, but why did you sell the store? Did you use it as collateral for debt? Yes, that's right. I was speechless with surprise. All he had to do was consult with me. Now it's clear who the real villain is. What a man who used his own daughter and went on a rampage with twisted thinking. I can't stay with you anymore. Wait, let's talk this over. We already did. From now on, you all need to manage on your own, including the surgery costs, tuition, and rent. As Len and I were about to leave the hospital room, Hannah started raising her voice. It can't. Who do you think is responsible for this? I did everything you told me. This is ridiculous. It's because you went overboard. If you had just followed my instructions properly, that's what happened when I did what you told me. It was an unbelievable family quarrel. Can we keep it down? This is a hospital after all. Shut up. You be quiet. It's all your faults anyway. I took a deep breath. I might have forgiven him a little if he had apologized, but that chance was gone after his last remarks. Lennon ignored everything and left the hospital. The last thing I heard was Hannah's scream. When I got home, I immediately called the movers and had my things sent to my parents' house. The thought of what those two would do next was somewhat exciting. When I returned to my parents' house, Ken contacted me. Could you at least help with the surgery costs? No way. Please, instead of that, you should worry about what you're going to do now. That's true, but from now on, you and Hannah try your best together. Bye. It turned out the surgery costs were covered by debts, and it seems Hannah had to drop out of school because she couldn't pay her tuition. I never thought they would lose everything, but I have no sympathy for them. Later, I ran to the new apartment and started living alone. It's a spacious room, so Lynn also comes to visit regularly. I look forward to spending happy times together as a family.